Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you a new painting tutorial. Games Workshop very kindly sent me out the entire League of Votann's range of miniatures to make videos and content for you guys. And my promise to you is that I will do a video on absolutely every single unit and character that is in the army, have it all in one nice playlist for you guys to follow along and hopefully get your Leagues of Votann painted up. So for this video today, I'm going to start off with none other than the massive land fortress miniature. This thing is an absolute behemoth. It took me a little bit longer to paint than I was expecting. So I hope the effort was worth it and you guys thoroughly enjoy the video. So stick around. Okay guys, and this is the beast itself. The Votann land fortress. All I did was assemble it. Some parts of it were left separate. The weapons were glued to spare bases, and the whole model was sprayed with a nice clean coat of chaos black. I'm gonna do this tank like I did a lot of my heresy tanks, which is the stipple technique, and I'm gonna work up through the reds on the higher parts of the tank. So all those kind of extra armor panels protruding are going to be done in the red scheme, and all of the underneath of the hull is going to be left black. So I'm going to start off with corn red, and this is that stippling technique I'm using, the Artist Opus series of dry brushes, which are absolutely fantastic for doing this technique. And yeah, basically I'm just going to go around and stipple all of those panels, making sure I get into all the nooks and crannies with the corn red. The first coat is the most important to get a nice solid coat on. The next two coats of red, because we're going to build this up as a 3 red stage by stage, are going to get lighter and lighter and kind of create that really nice like mottled textured hull look, which I've just fallen absolutely in love with when I'm painting armored vehicles, because it just doesn't look like a flat, like so much flat color, if that makes sense. One thing I've always struggled with over the years with tanks is trying to make them not look like a toy, if you know what I mean. On the example of this particular scheme with a land fortress in the codex, they didn't have the doors as being red, but originally I wasn't going to do them red, but as I basically finished doing the red on the top, I stopped, I looked at the model and I decided, you know what, I think I do want some more red. So I went ahead and did the doors. If you're going along with the same scheme as me, then it's up to you whether you want to do the doors or not. As I'll be going through this process, I will be painting up the weapons and stuff the same as I go along. You might not see all those steps on camera, but just, yeah, use your own noggin and figure out which bits I'm doing the red and the black alongside with the other weapon pieces. The next color red I'm going to do is jump up to Mephiston red. And like I was saying before, because we've gotten the solid coat on the corn red, we don't need to go into all the nooks and crannies. We're just going to give it a lighter, like I said, mottled effect across the armor panels. It will only take kind of 2 or 3 minutes with the other 2 coats of paint. The corn red is the one that will take the most amount of time. After that, it is super quick to get it done. And like I said, this is the stippling technique. If you don't know how I did this, or you're kind of confused as to what I'm doing here, the technique, I'll put a link up on the top of the screen now, which will go to one of my heresy videos where I show you guys me painting up some of the new plastic heresy tanks, and I talk a lot more in depth about how these brushes work. And how I like to use them as this stippling technique. But just so you know, if you have any of these kind of new age brushes, not the makeup brushes that some people use that they think do the same job, those brushes are too soft, and the stippling effect doesn't really work. It just kind of splays the brushes out when they hit the vehicle or the surface. So yeah, just be aware, they have to have a little bit of tension in the bristles for this to work. Evil Sun Scarlet is the 3rd red that I'm going to do. And once again, I stipple that across the hull. This is much lighter. You can even see with my technique here, it is definitely a lot lighter, a lot less pressure put on the tank. This is going to act as kind of the last coat, almost the highlight. And what we will do is we will actually, I think I forgot to put it on camera, but I took the dry paint Kindle Flame. But any kind of bright orange kind of color you can do this next step with, which is just to go back across the hull with a very light dry brush with your brush, just to catch the little edges around this tank and to make them pop even more. But it's super subtle. I don't want to go crazy. I don't want like a really stark lines. This is the dry brush that I'm talking about. And as you can see, it is literally just catching the very edge lines and just adding that tiny bit of highlight work to the red armor. And with that done, that is the end of the red armor. It's now time to paint up everything else around it. So the first thing I did was I taped off the cockpit so I could go back in and spray that again. The same technique that I followed with painting up all of my Votann infantry. There's links to painting my Votann infantry. They'll pop up on the top of the screen here as well. I thought about just saying follow those videos, and I wasn't actually going to show you guys how to paint them because I've shown you how to paint the infantry of the Votann previously. But I decided that we will do basically like a lightning round. I'm going to show you very quickly how to paint the inside of the cockpit. But first, I'm going to go on and tidy up all of the black. So I'm just going to grab a standard Abaddon black from Games Workshop. Any black will work for this, whatever your favorite one is. And like I said, I'm just going around to the rest of like the underhull, that's what I'm going to call it, I don't really know what else to call it, of this tank, leaving all of those raised panels in red, and be very careful not to hit them with black, because obviously it will take a long time to repair any mistakes. So it's best to take a deep breath, get a good brush, and take your time with this, as opposed to rushing it and then having to spend even more time trying to repair any red mistakes. It's quite a therapeutic stage, tidying up around all of the red panels, because it finally does give you a sense of what this tank will look like when it's finished. I always love when you get to that point in a paint job where you can kind of see where it's going, and you can get that little like flash of pride. You know this is a piece that you're going to be happy with, that you're going to be putting on a table and showing your friends and stuff. And that was this stage for me. Okay, time to get the first coat of silver on all of the roll cage. So I went for Iron Hand Steel. And I took my time once again and painted around all of the roll cage style thing on this beast. And there is quite a lot of roll cage on it. And like I said, you do not want to be hitting any of the black or the red. So this is another stage where I'm going to say the words, just take your time. Tell you to slow your painting down and be extra careful. It will actually save you much more time later on trying to neat up any other bits and pieces. Once all of that silver is done, we're just going to throw a quick wash over it. As you can see, I also did the rims, the hubs, the little bit of the wheels. They're all done in silver as well. I'm now going to throw a Nuln Oil shade all over those silver metallic parts. That's the only bit that I'm going to hit with this Nuln Oil. Don't go near the black, don't go near the red. Just the roll cage. These vehicles give me very kind of Armageddon, moon landing style vehicles bouncing along like an asteroid surface for mining or survey purposes. And that's why I love them so much. Which means it's kind of strange that you need, like, those pieces of equipment tend to seem like quite delicate things. So having a crazy big reinforced roll cage, just maybe these Votann guys go a bit crazy and take these things for a short ride. Okay, time to, like I said, paint up the inside compartment. This is going to be a speed round, like I said. So Blood Angel's Red Contrast was used on all of the armor that the dwarf pilot is wearing, and all of the there's basically two robots that are helping him drive. One's helping him, they're actually both probably gunners. So the one just beside him and the one that's sticking out at the back. I got some normal Grey Seer paint, and I brushed it over the armor panels of the one sticking out of the back so that I could do the contrast steps with him. Like I said, the majority of this thing is going to be black. You can see how much of the inside of the cockpit I blacked in when I was doing the black stage. Black Templar is going to be used for things like his seatbelt, his big harness holding him down, any of his cloth in between the red armor panels on his arms is just going to get a coat of Black Templar. Once again, this is another extremely quick step. There isn't actually all that much to do in it. If you are wondering when I did the rest of it, when I basically tidied up around the red panels with the black, that's when I went in and did most of the cockpit, basically all of the consoles and stuff like that. Guilliman flesh was used on the skin, very small amount of skin. He's mostly hat and beard, his gloves on. Lead belcher for any of the metallic parts that are inside of the cockpit, so the big center strap of his harness, plus his control sticks, the arms of the robots, the big domed helmets of the robots, and stuff like that were all done using the silver metallics. From here, the sewer paint was just used for his cap that he's wearing, the kind of leathery cap, and the little pillow on the back of his throne. I decided to do the same color as well, just to save time. Now with this particular thing, the inside of a cockpit, you don't need to spend an awful lot of time painting every button, doing all those bits and pieces. I throw a Raycon flesh shade all over the inside as well. All of the miniatures in this will get a full coat of Raycon flesh shade. There's going to be a canopy sitting over the top of this, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to see through those canopies. Therefore, people will not be able to pick out all the details, edge highlights, all that kind of craziness. We will going to do a lot more work inside of it, but don't worry if you make mistakes. Iron breaker was used while I was waiting for the Raycon flesh shade to dry inside the cockpit, to layer up that roll cage. I basically used feather technique across it. As you can see, I'm always going across the pipe. I'm never going up and down it. It's always from side to side, just to give that nice feathered look. Okay, the cockpit has dried, so Evil Sunz Scarlet is used to highlight all of those red armor. Now, if you're following along with the videos I did on normal infantry, you'll know that I went from the contrast to Mephiston Red, then to Evil Sunz Scarlet. Well, I basically skipped the stage here because, like I said, people are not going to be able to see these miniatures all that clearly. It's not going to matter that much. They're going to look perfectly fine and painted through the glass. If I'm being 100% honest with you guys, if I wasn't doing this piece as a tutorial, I might have done my traditional trick with these canopies, and I wouldn't have painted the inside of them at all. I tend to flip the canopies of vehicles and planes upside down, spray the inside of the canopy with black so that I keep the outside with that kind of glossy glass look, and then I just glue that straight up over the top of it. Now, I haven't even painted the cross sections of these canopies yet, and you can already see how difficult it is to really see inside any of the detail. Here's where I personally made a mistake or learned a lesson, depending on how you look at it. So I took my time and I painted all of the struts, or whatever these particular parts are called, on a canopy with the red, thinking that I was going to match it up to the hull like it was in the original artwork and the examples of it in the codex. As I mounted the pieces to the vehicle, I realized that there was no way that I was going to be able to match the red to the red that the hull was, because it wasn't doing the same stippling technique, which doesn't give me the same mottled red. So in the end, I decided to grab some of the new Black Legion contrast and go back over all of the red and give the canopy struts a nice black coat, which I actually really prefer the look of after I'd done it. I'm delighted. Next thing I did was grab a nice white, any white that you have will do, and I painted over all of the lights on this entire vehicle. There is quite a few tucked around either side of the back hatch, all the lights on the front, little bits on the side, and all of the ball turrets have them as well. After that, I used Talazar blue to give all of these lights the nice glowing effect. Most of the lights got this blue coloring, but the actual big searchlight on the top and the two spotlights on the back of it on either side of the door are actually going to go yellow, as goes the examples that were in the codex. This is a very quick and easy step, and I think it does really add something to it. Here's the Iron Jaws yellow that I used as the contrast for the spotlight. Only when I got to the very end of this process did I realize that I forgot to paint the additional two spotlights, like the one on the top, that go on the front of the bull bars of the tank. So I do apologize for not showing you those, guys. I will get them painted up and added onto my one, but they go on the front there. Once that was all done, the tank painting wise was pretty much complete. I really liked where it was at. but I think it was time to add in all those transfers. And once again, going back to the examples, this thing was covered in transfers in the example in the book, so I'm going to follow suit and do the same thing. So I cut out all the transfers that I wanted to have on it, placed them roughly where I wanted to, and then I went through the process of using microsol and microset to apply the transfers all over the hull of this beautiful tank. It was a lot of fun basically trying to figure out where they were supposed to go, where they would fit on all the different panels. And when it was complete, this is where all the transfers went. Like I said, I may add some weathering powder to this thing along the wheels. The bottom half of it is a little too clean for my liking. I need to get some sort of kind of grey moon dusty type weathering powder and apply it all over it as it's been trundling through asteroids and bits like that. I think that will add the little cherry on top to this piece and make me really, really happy with it. Okay guys, and there we have it. The land fortress is now completed, painted up. The only thing that I may add to it is some weathering powder just to rough it up a little bit, which is how I usually like the look of tanks when I'm finished painting them, but that's a personal preference. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you give it a like. Ask me any questions you'd like in the comments below and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. If for some crazy reason you are not already subscribed to my channel, it would mean the world to me if you took 2 seconds out of your day and hit that subscribe button. And if you like what I do and want to support me even further, there's links to things like my Patreon below. If you become a member of my Patreon, you'll get access to a personal and private Discord server where you can spend your days talking with me and over 100 other awesome hobbyists to help you progress in your hobby. So click the button below and get involved.